Hi, my name is Lana Perry, and I am an online student for the class, and I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So, hi, class from Kansas City, Missouri. Uh, the article I chose was Nature versus Nurture, Temperament, Personality, and Lifespan Development. So, what I want to essentially talk about is just the article itself overall, the five-factor model of how your personality develops, how they have even come up with that, and then my own rendition of the five-factor model. And I actually created a Venn diagram, and we can get into that a little later. But I think there are some things that should be included in how your personality is classified, and then actually how it changes over time. So the article itself basically discussed how researchers decided to look at your personality over five cultures and over the five categories of your lifespan in five separate cultures. So what they did was take a look at British, Spanish, German, Turkish, and I think Czechoslovakian, I want to say. Um, so what I think from that research is they basically said, your environment does play a part in it, but there needs to be further research, um, which I definitely agree with. I think that there should be a little more research, but I don't only think that your environment plays a part in what your personality becomes as you age in life. I think it's a little more in depth than that. So what I did essentially is I looked at an article, and looked through the article and see, okay, what did they base their research from? How did they go about doing it? And they did the classifications of the personality, and they're saying that the your characteristics change, not necessarily your core personality, but your personality and your temperament do go hand in hand. And I found that very interesting myself. I think your behavior definitely goes along with your core characteristics of who you are as a person. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about the five-factor model, and I know we've gone over it a few times in class. But you have basic tendencies, biological tendencies, and then your character adapts accordingly, and then that changes over time. And so what the article did was say, okay, these things have changed over time, yes, but your environment does have a small amount to do with it. Well, what I did was create a Venn diagram, and so I'm not sure if it's adequate enough for the research they've done on the five-factor model, but just in my own life experiences and how my personality has changed as I grow and as I age, and I watch the behaviors of those around me, I think it's a little important. So what we have now, and what my perspective is on the five-factor model, and the temperament and your personality. I think, yes, as you age, the article says that you get a little friendlier. That hasn't been necessarily my experience. I think so. I think if you open up to elderly people versus children, I think they have the same a little mindset, that they are content in what their immediate habits and people that they interact with are. When you get to the middle age, or you've got the adulthood, you have a lot more interactions, and so that changes your personality a bit more, and it widens your perspective. But one thing about the environment that I think is super important is that if you grow up in different regions, even if you're in the same country, if you take the United States, if you grow up in a different region, your personality can be completely different according to your environment than someone in that exact same race, in that exact same culture, just because you live in different regions. So I'm from the Northeast, and I polled a couple people that I know from the Southwest. I took up people from the Northwest, and so when I started asking the questions, there are fundamental differences just in the weather. There were, the people interactions. People from the South are completely different than people from the North, and their thinking's a bit different, and the teachings are a bit different. So I think that is the environmental factor. But one thing that is environmental that a lot of people don't think about, I think, is the home. So when you take in parenting. So a lot of times you've got single family homes, you've got two parent homes, and if your parents get divorced, then you, what I like to call the four-person home, where you've got becomes a blended family. And so when you take into account if you have a blended family versus a single parent, you tend to have a different personality, whether you're in the same, same class, socioeconomic class, same race, same cultural background. To me, those are fundamental differences that create the type of personality you have and that create your core character. So when you take a look at stuff like that, I think it's important, and that is my own perspective. You guys definitely can debate it. I would have liked to debate it throughout class to say, um, how is my personality different from someone who lives in California? If we grew up, we're the same age, and we've had the same life experiences, what actually is different, fundamentally about us? So I think that is important. And the current event that I actually chose was because I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and there was recently a shooting of a small child in Cleveland, Ohio. And so what I did, I talked to a couple of friends here in Kansas City, and I said, what are your thoughts around the kid's personality? Because a lot of people don't know the child was bullied, and that was the reason behind the current events that took place. And so those are the things that led up to it. And so I think that once I talked to them and I asked, environmentally, there were two parents in that home, but there was a child here that has been bullied, and there's one parent in the home, and that child is actually a lot tougher than the child, my expectation of the child from Cleveland. So I thought that was really interesting, and I really thought that, even though these children, the kids that I did talk to here, that some of them were different cultures, um, that they dealt with bullying in the same capacity. The child from the one parent home was a lot more angry than the child from the actual blended family that I spoke to. So I found that to be interesting, and when I think about personalities, I think that your experiences with other people definitely should take into account how your personality develops when you get older. If you have a traumatic experience as a child, and then you get older, you don't forget those things. So I think that is fundamentally important, and so I'm looking forward to debating. I know this is the end of class, so I really enjoyed you guys, and I'm over time, but you guys enjoyed the semester, and it was great working with you all.